Hello everyone. Welcome to SHR Trinity. Today, we advance to part 2 of our zero-shot prompting interview series. Let's get started. Before we begin, if you're looking for practical, industry-oriented training in artificial intelligence and generative AI, SHR Trinity offers a comprehensive 30-hour training program. For complete course details, check the description below. Now let's begin today's interview session. We will now begin with questions 11 to 20 of our zero-shot prompting interview series. Moving on to question 11, how do you handle ambiguity in a zero-shot prompt when you cannot provide examples?
When relying on zero-shot prompting, ambiguity is your biggest enemy. Because you aren't providing examples to anchor the model's understanding, it relies entirely on its pre-trained probability distribution. If your prompt says, "Make this text better," the model might rewrite it formally, translate it, or summarize it. To handle ambiguity, you must decompose your instructions into explicit, non-overlapping constraints. You should define the exact role, the precise action verb, the target audience, and the desired outcome. For example, instead of "make it better," a robust zero-shot prompt would say, "Act as a senior editor." Rewrite the following text to use active voice, eliminate passive phrasing, and target a high school reading level. This leaves zero room for the model to guess your intent.
Moving on to question 12, what is the best way to enforce tone and style constraints in a zero-shot scenario?
Enforcing tone without examples requires leveraging well-known stylistic archetypes that the model encountered during pre-training. If you just say "be professional," the model's definition of professional might be overly robotic or academic. Instead, use comparative adjectives and reference recognizable styles. For instance, write in the style of a Forbes business article, confident, data-driven, and persuasive, but avoid academic jargon. You are combining a known archetype, the Forbes article, with explicit boundary descriptors. Additionally, defining the emotional temperature, such as urgent but empathetic, gives the attention mechanism strong semantic anchors to adjust its vocabulary choices without needing a concrete example.
Moving on to question 13, how do you enforce rigid formatting instructions, such as JSON or Markdown, using zero-shot?
Generating strict data formats like JSON in zero-shot is historically difficult because models love to add conversational padding, like "here is your JSON." To enforce strict formatting, you must explicitly forbid conversational filler and define the exact schema in natural language. A professional prompt would look like this: return the extracted entities as a valid JSON object. Do not include any conversational text, explanations, or markdown wrappers. Use strictly 3 keys: name, age, and occupation. By explicitly declaring the schema and aggressively shutting down the model's chatty default behavior, you can achieve reliable data extraction for API pipelines without needing to consume tokens on examples.
Moving on to question 14, what are negative constraints, and why are they critical in zero-shot prompting?
Negative constraints instruct the model on what not to do. In zero-shot scenarios, you don't have examples to implicitly show the model what to avoid, so you must state exclusions explicitly. For example, if you ask a model to write a marketing email, its default behavior might be to include emojis, hashtags, and a generic "Dear Customer" greeting. A negative constraint would explicitly state, do not use emojis. Do not use hashtags. Never start with "Dear Customer." Interestingly, large language models sometimes struggle with the word "not," so it is often more effective to pair negative constraints with positive alternatives, such as avoid emojis. Instead, use professional bullet points. This steers the model away from unwanted probabilistic paths.
Moving on to question 15, how do you handle length limits effectively without providing examples?
Enforcing length limits in zero-shot is notoriously tricky because LLMs process text in tokens, not human words or characters. If you ask an LLM for exactly 250 words, it will almost certainly fail, usually landing somewhere between 200 and 300. Instead of asking for exact word counts, you should use structural constraints or broad-range targets. For instance, write exactly 3 paragraphs, with each paragraph containing no more than 4 sentences. Or, keep the summary concise, between 50 and 100 words. Structural limits like sentence counts or bullet points align much better with the model's internal generation mechanics than strict character or word limits.
Moving on to question 16, what is iterative refinement, and how does it relate to zero-shot prompting?
Iterative refinement is the process of chaining multiple zero-shot prompts together to achieve a complex result. Instead of writing one massive, convoluted zero-shot prompt that tries to do everything, you break the task down. For example, if you need to translate, summarize, and format a legal document, doing all 3 in one zero-shot prompt might cause the model to hallucinate or drop instructions. Instead, you use iterative refinement. Prompt 1 translates the text. You take that output and feed it into prompt 2, which summarizes it. Finally, prompt 3 formats the summary into JSON. This sequential zero-shot approach drastically reduces cognitive load on the model and ensures high-fidelity outputs for complex enterprise tasks.
Moving on to question 17, how does persona emulation work in a zero-shot context?
Persona emulation in zero-shot is a powerful technique where you assign the model a specific role, such as act as a senior cybersecurity analyst. Because you are providing examples of how an analyst speaks, the model retrieves the linguistic and factual patterns associated with that persona from its pre-training data. This instantly changes the model's default vocabulary, depth of knowledge, and problem-solving framework. A generic prompt might yield a high-level summary of a firewall, but a persona prompt will trigger the model to discuss packet inspection, zero-trust architecture, and CVE vulnerabilities. It is a zero-cost way to dramatically elevate the expertise level of the output.
Moving on to question 18, what are the challenges of multilingual zero-shot prompting?
Multilingual zero-shot prompting occurs when you ask a model to perform a task in a language other than English, without providing examples. The primary challenge is that LLMs are overwhelmingly trained on English data. When you prompt a model in Spanish or Hindi, its reasoning capabilities and instruction-following fidelity often degrade because the parametric knowledge in those languages is shallower. A common best practice in enterprise pipelines is to write the system instructions and constraints in English, but explicitly command the model to generate the final output payload in the target language. This leverages the model's strong English reasoning pathways while still delivering localized content.
Moving on to question 19, how do you optimize a zero-shot prompt for summarization?
Summarization is one of the most common zero-shot tasks. The trap most beginners fall into is just saying, "Summarize this text." A professional zero-shot summarization prompt specifies the extraction criteria, the audience, and the format. For example, extract the 3 most critical financial risks from the following earnings report. Format them as a bulleted list for a C-level executive. Ignore marketing fluff. This prompt works flawlessly without examples because it gives the attention mechanism exact targeting parameters, financial risks, and an explicit output filter. By defining what to extract and what to ignore, you guarantee a high-signal, low-noise summary.
Moving on to question 20, why is zero-shot prompting considered the ultimate test of an LLM's true capability?
We'll conclude this module by looking at the bigger picture. In AI research, zero-shot performance is the gold standard benchmark for evaluating a model's intrinsic intelligence and instruction-following capability. When you use few-shot prompting, you are effectively giving the model a crutch. It can just pattern match your examples. But in zero-shot, the model has to rely entirely on its internal world model, its semantic understanding of your natural language instructions, and its parametric memory. If a new model like GPT-4 or Claude 3 excels at zero-shot tasks, it proves the architecture has achieved deep generalization rather than superficial memorization. For developers, mastering zero-shot means you can build cheaper, faster, and highly scalable API pipelines.
Excellent. You've completed part 2 of our zero-shot prompting interview series. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, subscribe to SHR Trinity, and press the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming AI interview preparation videos. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.